Reflections on the Good News of Jesus Christ for the 20th Sunday of Ordinary Time from the Gospel according to Matthew. At that time, Jesus withdrew to the region of Tyre and Sidon. A Canaanite woman of that district came and called out to him, "Have pity on me, Lord, Son of David. My daughter is tormented by a demon." But Jesus did not say a word in answer to her. Jesus' disciples came and said to him, "Send her away, for she keeps calling out after us." He said in reply, "I was sent only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel." But the woman came and did him homage, saying to Jesus, "Lord, help me." He said in reply, "It is not right to take the food of the children and throw it to the dogs." She said, "Please, Lord, for even the dogs eat the scraps that fall from the table of their masters." Then Jesus said to her in reply, "O woman, great is your faith. Let it be done for you as you wish." And the woman's daughter was healed from that hour. The Gospel of the Lord. During the Second World War, two soldiers carried their dead comrade many miles to a French village. Wanting to give their friend a fitting burial, they asked the village priest if they might bury their friend in the parish cemetery. The problem was that the deceased was not a Catholic, and in those days, non-Catholics could not be buried in a Catholic cemetery. So the priest said that they could bury their friend just outside the fence of the cemetery, and so they did. Sometime later, the two soldiers returned to the village to visit their friend's grave, but they could not find it. They went to see the priest. Father told them that he began to regret his insistence that their friend be buried outside the cemetery's fence, so he got up in the middle of the night and moved the fence out to include their friend's resting place. Our image of God is always too small, too exclusive. Our images of people are also frequently too exclusive. How easy it is to decide that some person or group must be excluded. Wrong race, wrong gender, wrong political opinion, wrong religion, wrong economic class, on and on. And of course, wrong almost always means wrong from my viewpoint, forgetting that any viewpoint is only one view from one point. Human history writ large, and perhaps our own individual histories, are marked by a long list of judgments such as these, decisions such as these, who's in and who's out, and all of the ugly attitudes and actions that often accompany such divisiveness. It's a familiar story with very old roots, going all the way back to biblical times, to the gospel story we've just heard, and beyond. The tension between who belongs and who does not. Jesus himself stood in the middle of this tension all of his public life. And in one of his final prayers, just hours before his death, Jesus prayed that all may be one, as you, Father, are in me and I am in you, that they may be one in us. Clearly, divisiveness and polarization are not marks of God's people. But again, those old roots. From long before the time of Jesus, the people of Israel jealously protected their status as God's holy people by excluding anyone from outside its borders. They were the foreigners, or Gentiles. The word means people of the nations. They were to be avoided, in some cases not even to be looked at or spoken to. Anyone not Jewish was, by definition, a Gentile. Therefore, unless you have Jewish ancestry somewhere in your background, you too are a Gentile. But from the prophet Isaiah, living 6 centuries before Jesus, we hear something new, something different. The people of Israel had been freed from their exile and had returned to their own country. They had rebuilt and reconsecrated the temple. Now there was to be a new way of faithfully living the covenant of the Lord. Let the immigrants in, Isaiah is saying. Do not exclude the foreigners. The prophet is calling the people to embrace all those who honor the one God, the Lord of the covenant. If those newcomers from other religions observe the holy customs, especially the Sabbath, then God's justice will be revealed to all of the people. Today's gospel goes even further. But first, it can make Jesus and his disciples look quite guilty of prejudice and selective charity. We see Jesus entering non-Jewish territory, something he very seldom does. He is in the district of Tyre and Sidon, 2 cities on the Mediterranean coast. Unlike some of the Jewish towns that are linked with Jesus and the gospel, which have disappeared or are in ruins, these 2 non-Jewish towns struggle to survive in today's war-torn Lebanon. A non-Jewish woman, that is, a foreigner, a Gentile, from a people who are an ancient enemy of the Jews, calls to Jesus for help with her sick daughter. Have mercy on me, Lord, Son of David. My daughter is tormented by a demon. Now, whether it was really a demon or some other illness which led to uncontrolled or uncontrollable behavior is not really important. There were many sicknesses which were poorly understood at the time and which filled people with fear. What is important is that her prayer expresses both helplessness and faith. Basically, all of us are also helpless, and without God, there is little that we can do by ourselves. Remember what Jesus told his disciples at the Last Supper? Without me, you can do nothing. Usually, when he is asked for anything at all, we see Jesus responding quickly and with great compassion. Instead, this time he turns his back on the woman. His disciples even ask him to grant her request and send her away because she's a bother. Imagine the tension in that place. Jesus states that he is sent first to recall, recover, and rededicate the people of Israel. They are the lost sheep. He uses the slang of his time to dismiss her and all non-Jews as dogs. Why dogs? Because dogs will eat anything, even pork, which Jews would never eat. Nonetheless, the woman makes a gesture of faith in him, but he replies that he has come to feed the Jews and not the little pests of other houses. She's both quick and clever, turning his words back on him. Perhaps she could be like a little puppy and have just a scrap from the table. I can imagine that Jesus smiled at her reply. Seeing her faith, the same faith to which Jesus is inviting the Jewish people, he grants her request. The daughter is healed through her mother's act of faith. And notice her prayer. She doesn't clean it up. She expresses her real feelings to Jesus, not her sanitized ones. And that's what Jesus wants from us when we pray. Our real feelings, our real lives, including the messy, angry, shameful parts. Jesus can handle our reality just like he handled this woman's. Each of us has our own boundaries, and we have constructed our own walls between ourselves and others, something that has become a literal and, for Christians, a shameful reality in our day. Those we have allowed in, and those we exclude because, why? As followers of Jesus, he has welcomed us, but he has also welcomed those others as well. At this point in his ministry, his whole focus was the Jewish people. But after his resurrection, he told his disciples to take the good news of the gospel to all peoples, all nations. A story like this is an occasion for us to look at our own attitudes toward people of other races, ethnic groups, and nationalities, those who are socially disadvantaged, those who are in any way different. Do we go out of our way to provide a welcome for the outsider? What kind of change in thinking, believing, and acting might you or I be called to in these days when few things seem normal? How might the upheaval we have undergone become an opportunity for our own ongoing conversion? She wants a better life for her 11-year-old than the violence of gang warfare. So, mother and son abandon their life in Colombia and make the dangerous journey to the United States border. She endures not only the physical hardship of the year-long journey, but the suspicion and distrust of those who do not want them here, that see her and her son and those like them as threats to the security of their way of life. But she will not be dismissed. She is not a dog. She is a mother. She joins with other parents of children of color in their march through the city. They're confronting the leadership of their community. They're demanding accountability from their police departments. Too many of their children have been harassed and hurt, and worse, simply for the sin of being black. They're law-abiding citizens and contribute to the welfare of their communities. And they have taught their children to do the same. This is their house, too. They are mothers. She tirelessly advocates for her child who is physically challenged. She's constantly meeting with school administrators and teachers to obtain the resources and accommodations her daughter needs to learn and succeed. Her persistence can be exhausting, and school officials dread her calls, but they can't help but admire her dedication and perseverance. She wants only what her daughter needs and is entitled to. No, she will not settle for scraps. She is a mother. The Canaanite woman who confronts Jesus in today's gospel lives here in our own cities and towns. We reduce these women to statistics and categories. We immediately blame them for their situation because of the demographic they fall into. But they are driven by that God-given love that is unique to the vocation of motherhood. In her courage and wisdom, the Canaanite woman bridges the gap between the various tribes she has been shut out of. She dares to cross the divide between Jews and Gentiles, children and dogs. Instead, she asserts their essential connectedness. Even if it's crumbs from the table, it's shared hunger and shared food. Even if we are divided by deeply held philosophical, political, or religious differences, we are bound by a common humanity. Even if we do not like each other, we can still love a sick child. To be a true disciple of Jesus demands that we listen intentionally with compassion and respect to the pleas of the Canaanite mothers and fathers in our midst, to offer our help and care to them, because they are sons and daughters of God no less than we are, to give them our hand and lift them up as God lifts us up in our own struggles and pain, to embrace them in our hearts as God embraces us in His. This is faith in action. How do you express your faith? Thanks for listening. Please feel free to share this with others if you wish, and consider subscribing to this weekly Gospel Reflection, which you can do at our website, www.justanother.disciple.com. Once again, www.justanother.disciple.com. Thanks again.